Hello everyone, and welcome to this explainer video on the newly announced but leaked for much longer Midland mainline for Train Sim World 3. This is the only screenshot that we have. We got the classic HST and East Midlands trains livery, and we've also got, you can't really see it because there's a gradient covering it, but in the bottom left, a class 158 Super Sprinter, also an East Midlands trains livery. So I'll jump in, a quick overview of the route. It goes from Leicester to Derby and Nottingham, so there's a sort of Y-shaped split, and I'll come on to that in a second. It includes the Class 43 HST, which is what you can see here, as well as the Class 158 Super Sprinter, which we'll come on to in a moment. And the route has 12 stations in total over approximately 30 miles of route across both the two branches. So this is the route. I made both of these maps. Please don't use them without my permission. So on the left hand side I've got a sort of overview of the speed limits. It's not super accurate, these maps, but you just sort of get an idea of the structure of the route. So none of it is officially high speed. There's a short bit of 120 coming north out of Leicester, and then it's 110 from just north of Leicester to East Midlands Parkway. So not slow, but not overly fast either. From East Midlands Parkway to Nottingham, it's 80 miles an hour almost completely, with some lower bits approaching Nottingham and out at East Midlands, as you'd expect, being major stations with flat junctions. And from East Midlands Parkway to Derby, it's about 100 miles an hour. There are some bits faster than that, some bits slower than that, especially on that kink coming into Derby. Coming over onto the right hand side map, we can see we come out of Leicester in the south. That's the southernmost point. Then the next station is Siston, then Silby, I'm not quite sure, Sillaby. I don't know my place names around here, so please, if you live near here, please do tell me the pronunciations of these places. Now you've got Barrow upon Soar, Loughborough, East Midlands Parkway, and then this is the branch where the branch splits. Going left or west, we've got Long Eaton, Spondon, and Derby, and going east, we have Attenborough, Beeston, and Nottingham. So we'll come on to the trains now. This is the Class 43 high-speed train. Now, some of you will remember when the HST originally released as part of the Great Western Express expansion pack, but this is very much a different train. It's still got the maximum speed of 125 miles an hour, or for people who speak normal, that's 200 kilometers per hour. They put out maximum power output of 1,320 kilowatts, and they were constructed between 1975 and 1982. On the East Midlands Trains network, they operated intercity trains, so naturally they will operate the faster, less frequently stopping expresses between Leicester, Nottingham, and Derby. And these units also never got their Paxman Valenta engines, their VP185s. They never got them taken out, so they've still got the OG engines. And I'll come on to that in a later slide as well. We've also got the Class 158 Super Sprinter. So these are the first Super Sprinter DMUs. They're some of the most highly requested, and they could pave the way for this unit to be layered into other things. And of course, with the livery editor and the scenario designer, you can drop it onto things like West Cornwall, or you can have them lurking around Brighton. We could stick them onto a lot of routes, you know, if you wanted to run them on Spirit of Steam, or on the Edinburgh to Glasgow in a ScotRail livery. There's loads of places where they're applicable, and it should really open up some cool gameplay possibilities. They've got a maximum speed of 90 miles an hour, which suits the provincial lines they run on, and for normal people that's 145 kilometers an hour. I've got maximum power output of between 260 and 300 kilowatts, depending on the variant, because they have there are different types of 158, and they have different power outputs because there are 2 different types of engine. Constructed between 1989 and 1992, they operate regional trains, so those will be the ones stopping at all stations between Leicester, Nottingham and Derby. And they've also got, as I mentioned just a second ago, 2 different types of engines across the 2 different variants. There's the Cummins engine and the Perkins engine. Alright, so we'll have a look at the possible timetable now. This is just from about 5 minutes of research, so this is not in depth. So there are about 70 daily intercity HST trains in each direction between Leicester, Nottingham and Derby. And breaking that down, there's about 37 trains to or from Derby, about 48 trains to or from Nottingham. And I couldn't get an exact number for the amount of regional trains, but I suspect it to be equal to or higher than that. So there's certainly enough timetabled services to fill your day there. I don't know what I was trying to say there. There's plenty, right? It's not like Cane Creek where you got 3 or 5 or whatever it is, whatever stupid number it is. There's going to be plenty in the different gameplay varieties. Alright, now I'll go into my critique. As many of you know, many of the long-time viewers know, I am very heavily critical on new DLC because some of them I don't think are the best possible choice. So we'll start off with the pros. The first is we're getting 2 new trains. I mean, some of you might ask that the HST is not really new, but it's a new sub-variant, so I'm going to call it a new train. So getting 2 new trains, which is great, especially coming from a third party. Skyhook is making this route. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. When you think like Edinburgh to Glasgow only came with 1 new train, they didn't even add a recycled HST or anything. It also has 2 branches, which is very cool. As many of the long-time viewers will know, I'm a fan of networks, things a little bit more complicated than just, your point A to point B straight line route. And the third pro is we got Paxman. I'm very excited about that. Fantastic engines. They sound amazing. They're the original OG. You can't beat them. Best sounding diesel engine in a train ever. No doubt about it. And if you want proof, just look up Paxman Valenta cold start and you'll see the things look like steam locomotives when they're starting the engines on a cold day. It is just phenomenal to watch. Cons. The first con, we're not getting a 222 Meridian. It's possible this will come in a future DLC. I think it is a bit of a shame that we're not getting them because they are, the mainstay of the Class 222, especially as this route's sort of set post 2011, so it's a relatively modern route, so we should sort of have the 222s on. Another con is that it's not very long. It's only about 30 miles, and for a route that comes with a high-speed train, I would imagine be slightly longer, especially with Train Sim World 3s. One of the biggest sales point is, we can have long routes now. Not really living up to its name. Anyway, what can you do? We've also, we're getting a high-speed train. It can do 125, but we're not actually getting a route that'll give it a chance to do that. And that's not a huge critique, it'll be a very nice driving experience. A bit of difference, because the only other thing that we've got the HST to run on is the fairly boring quad track line out of Paddington that's just straight and you're just cruising. Maybe you might have to stop at Slough. Whoa! But no, so it's not super long, it's not super fast. They're not game breakers by any means, but it's something to think about if you're looking to buy the route. As well, it's not a particularly noteworthy route. I don't mean this in a particularly bad way, but unlike, say, the Bakerloo line, which is, landmark, or London Underground, highly requested, getting a metro. The only thing that's sort of that level of hype about this is the Class 158, and perhaps a Paxman. But other than that, there's no part of the actual route itself that is particularly noteworthy. And the other thing is, because of that, it will need a lot of attention to detail, a lot of crafting and perfection. Otherwise, it's just going to be a pretty mundane, boring route to play. The beta testers really have to do a good job. Skyhook have to do a good job. They don't have a fantastic reputation, so they've really got to pull out all the stops for this if they want to turn their reputation around. Also, for the future implications, for the longest time, everyone's been asking for a Southwest Trains route, and the answer has always been no, because Dovetail had, for a very long time, issues obtaining the license. Southwest Trains was of course owned by Stagecoach. That was the parent company, as is East Midlands Trains. So my thinking is they have a Stagecoach license, clearly. At least they can use the EMT brand, so potentially they might be able to use the SWT brand, which could also mean that we might be getting some SWT content for the first time in a long time. And I know this has been so heavily requested, and it'll be such a good addition to the game, in my opinion. I'm even going to allow it a free pass, because normally I'm critical on the third rail, more third rail EMUs, but I'll allow an exception for some Desiros, 455s, just in the classic Southwest. And it would populate Clapham Junction as well. We could actually see stuff coming in and out of your yards, in and out of the Southwest platforms. They make up the bulk of the traffic around Clapham and on that Southwest main line. So it's quite depressing driving through there at the moment on London Commuter. Even though the traffic on London Commuter itself is very dense, it could really do with some boosting around that area. Which, the other argument for that is, well, but it'll cause such big performance hits, which, there is some truth to that as well. But we'll see what happens. We will see indeed. In terms of expected release, I think it'll release sometime after February. There's so much stuff coming soon. We know that the Acela and Trenton are coming in February. Nidartalbarn doesn't seem too far away. From what we've seen, Peak Forest doesn't seem too far away. Nidartalbarn certainly doesn't... Did I say that? Mines, Koblenz, West Rhine doesn't appear too far away either. So we've got a lot... And the Sherman Hill pack is going to release very quickly as well. So I think there's a lot of stuff coming quickly. But I think probably for Sherman Hill, Acela and Trenton will release in February. Maybe Nidartalbarn, West Rhine, Peak Forest, perhaps March or April. And I think this will release in sort of late March or early April. It could be sooner than that, but honestly, if we've only been given one screenshot, so that either means they're saving some stuff for further down the line that they already have access to, or that is the only place where the route actually looks good. So we'll see. We'll certainly see. And as usual, I'll provide updates if they're substantial enough in due course. And finally, should you buy this? Well, look, as I was sort of mentioning there, it's far too early to tell. Skyhook doesn't have a fantastic reputation. They completely botched the Deutschbahn BR187. They used the complete wrong sounds for that. They said, oh, it's COVID, we can't get the proper ones. And within like a day, several independent modders had gone out and made their own sound packs that sound phenomenal. But regardless, Skyhook doesn't have a fantastic reputation. They got a decent reputation for scenery, but not for the actual trains. So, got to watch out for that. They've certainly got better. Horseshoe Curve wasn't tragic. Cane Creek wasn't brilliant. The scenery was alright. And the 187 was pretty trash. So what I would say is watch the preview stream before you make a final decision on whether you want to get this route or not. Again, if anything really substantial happens, I will make another video like this one. The final thing I will say that I haven't written down on the PowerPoint, I expect the price to be about 30 quid, which is $60 Australian. So that's about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If you have, please do consider subscribing. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.